All right, we're starting a new lesson that's connecting to our Earth spheres. We're going to be talking about those cycles within our Earth spheres. So, cycles exist within each Earth sphere that leads to the interactions that sustain life. Examples of this include like the flow of water, the flow of nitrogen, the movement of carbon. Okay, all of these are examples of spheres and those movements within our Earth spheres. Many materials are going to be used and then reused by other organisms. Some are then also stored on Earth for later use, and this ties directly into those natural cycles that occur on Earth. The nitrogen cycle consists of all living organisms and how they need nitrogen. Plants get nitrogen from soil. Animals get nitrogen from eating plants and other animals. As a result, both plants and animals need nitrogen to survive. So we're actually going to have nitrogen constantly moving throughout our Earth. Most organisms cannot use nitrogen in its pure form of just nitrogen. This is going to occur in the atmosphere. As a result, nitrogen has to be fixed or changed so that plants and animals can use it. So it needs to be changed into the form of either nitrates or ammonia. Nitrates can be returned to the soil by animal waste, aka an animal poops. Ammonia can be produced by liquid waste through animals, aka urine. So both ammonia and nitrates occur a lot of times when an animal can die. So when animals and plants die, the bacteria from their decaying bodies actually releases nitrates and ammonia. This is then recycled back into our atmosphere. That being said, we need to be able to properly label this picture. So nitrogen in the atmosphere, that should be pretty easy right at the top. Industrial fixation involves nitrogen by companies, so that's going to be right beneath this giant old building. We have nitrogen fixation by bacteria. That's going to make NH4. So if you see where NH4 is right there, that's where that one is going to be. Now, nitrogen fixation by soil bacteria. Okay, so it's going to be fixing it. And then we have denitrification. That makes it into a gas. So for these ones, it's kind of tricky, but the best way to think of it is I give you a hint. So makes it into a gas is going to be right by the NO3 minus, because that one's got that arrow going up to our gas form. That means our nitrogen fixation by soil bacteria is going to be in that bottom corner. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. Again, the PowerPoint is on Schoology if you need to refer to it. The next cycle we're going over is the carbon cycle. So in the carbon/oxygen cycle, both carbon and oxygen are actually going to move among plants, animals, and the environment. Now, all life on Earth is involved in this cycle because carbon and oxygen are what form living organisms. When we talk about like biochemistry, it's going to be focused on that carbon and oxygen. Okay, the two processes need to make life pretty much happen are photosynthesis and cellular respiration, because photosynthesis creates energy for our plants and cellular respiration creates energy for us. Now, photosynthesis is how plants make their food, right? Respiration is how we make our food and our energy. Remember, we can't just take sunlight and be like, poof, I have energy. Okay, it has to be converted into a form that we can use. Now, in that process, carbon dioxide plants take in and release oxygen, whereas humans take in oxygen and release that carbon dioxide. Now, the carbon cycle is that continuous movement of the carbon from the non-living environment into the living environment and back. The carbon cycle begins with photosynthesis. During photosynthesis, plants and other autotrophs absorb that carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and convert it into sugar or glucose. Next, then, plants take in that vegetation, aka eat it, and they break down that energy to form ATP. They then release carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere. Now, all life, plants, and animals and everything else eventually dies. When it does die, it's broken down. Okay, when it breaks down, it forms things like fossil fuels. Fossil fuels power our machinery in the form of oil and gasoline. Okay, it's that accumulation of death that we then use to power everything around us. Now, the burning of this fuel is known as combustion. It's also going to release carbon dioxide back into our atmosphere. So now we're going to work on labeling this picture. That being said, we need to remember that carbon dioxide is the form that's going to be in the atmosphere. So at the top, we have carbon dioxide. Next, just below that, you have an arrow coming from our plants and our animals. Both plants and animals undergo cellular respiration, releasing carbon dioxide into that atmosphere. Whereas what pulls carbon dioxide out of our atmosphere is going to be our tree. So that arrow going down to the tree is going to be photosynthesis. Now, to get everything back up into the atmosphere, we undergo combustion. So looking at that industrial boat, combustion is going to be happening. And then when things die or go to the bathroom, they're going to have that decomposition. So death and decomposition should be that arrow from that deer. If you missed any of that, please press pause on this portion of the video so you can write it all down. Next, we have the water cycle. Seas, oceans, lakes, and rivers cover around 75% of the Earth's surface. The water in Earth's environment then moves through what is known as the water cycle. When this happens, heat energy from the sun causes waters, puddles, streams, rivers, seas, and everything like that to have some like water vapor. This is known as evaporation. The vapor rises and then collects into our clouds. After evaporation, we have condensation. Condensation then leads to water vapor collecting in our clouds. As the clouds cool, the water vapor condenses and then drops down into the earth. Okay, this is again called condensation, aka when it rains, snows, or even hails. Next, we have precipitation. That's that water falling to the earth from our clouds, mainly in the form of rain. It can be called sometimes hail and snow. So remember, evaporate, water comes back in, it condenses in our clouds, and then precipitation allows that water to fall down to our earth. Next, we have transpiration. Transpiration is a process by which plants lose water out of their leaves. Okay, so plants don't just retain an indefinite amount of water. Okay, they're going to retain some of it and then lose some of it in the form of water vapor. This is going to be known as transpiration. From there, we have runoff and percolation. Some water will percolate or absorb into soil. It then becomes groundwater. Other water is called runoff when it flows and accumulates into river and lakes. So percolation is in the soil, runoff is to our water or lakes. So again, we have our water. The water evaporates and rises. From there, it condenses, moves to our clouds. The clouds rain, and that leads to the rainfall, aka precipitation. Our trees take that in, and then they transpire it and have it leave back into our cycle. All right, so try to label this one here. Remember, you have a body of water losing that water. We have it in our clouds coming down in the form of rain. It comes back up from our plants. We have it going into that groundwater. Okay, so please take a minute to do that. All right, and the last little one. Remember, water vapor in our clouds. This leads to condensation. It evaporates off of our bodies of water. Precipitation is when it comes down. Then we have runoff going into our soil, right? Into our bodies of water. Transpiration occurs from our plants, and then percolation is going into that soil. Please press pause on this video if you need to take a minute to record anything. Thanks, guys. Take care. I hope you enjoyed the video today.